The museum, I guess I built my first shed over here about 95, and I suppose I built this in 98. And the reason I built this, first I built a shed to store some of my snowmobiles, and then talked to my wife, and she said that she didn't really want to go down south, and she liked it here in the winter, and she didn't like the heat. And so I asked her, I said, well, do you mind if I you know, build some sleds and show people some of this museum and stuff like that? And she says, no, fine. So she has her quilting, and she does quilts for a lot of church groups and stuff like that. And I guess I do this snowmobiling thing for anybody that wants to come and see the history and whatever.
For a little while.
I'm just a caretaker of history. That's what all this is. You know, everybody's on this earth for so long. And if I can pass along what history I know about these and these sleds and stuff like this, the snowmobiles, I know that I can't take it with me, and I don't want to take it with me. I just want to share the history and the passion for this sport. And I'm so thankful for the history of the motors and the sleds that I have been able to show and display and tell a story. Because, you know, as we were kids, what fun we had. And I want to pass this on to the kids, the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren that we have, that there's so much to see outdoors. And not so much just snowmobiling, just walking out in the woods and enjoying life. One thing I always said, and maybe this is wrong to say this too, but you always remember your first snowmobile, your first love, and your first car. And you always want to redo your snowmobile and your car, but I don't know if you want to redo your first love. That might be a little bit different, but yeah, it's part of your life that you went through, and you'll always remember it. I mean, talking to some kids, you know, they'll say that, oh, I went out and rode, and it broke down in the middle of the field, and Dad wasn't home, so we took a scoop shovel and shoveled it all the way out there, drug it home. Well, here we found out was the drive belt was bad. Well, the thing is, they learned something. They learned to use common sense. They learned how to fix it and how mechanically the snowmobile worked. And they can use that as they go along in life, so that if the lawnmower breaks down or something like that, they don't have to say, well, I don't know how to fix it. But no, they use their common sense. They can fix a lot of things. And it helps in life. And that's what it's all about, I think.
You are. Yeah.
What got me in snowmobiling, I guess, is my dad brought home a little used little Andy Polaris snowmobile, and that was in 1965. And we, as a family, rode it around, and we had so much fun with it in the snow and everything else. And we just kind of inkled it, hey, this is, and everybody was getting snowmobiles. Everybody had them here and there and all over. And we were in kind of the sand and gravel business and this and that. And we thought, well, let's call Scorpion just for the heck of it, because the Skidoo dealer was a local Skidoo dealer and a Polaris dealer was already taken. So we called Scorpion, the salesman stopped by, and he had two sleds on his pickup. We made a deal, my older brother, my dad, and I, we bought 3 snowmobiles for $1,841, and we were a dealer. And then we sold a couple of them right away, and then we were only an hour away from the factory, so we could go get them. As soon as we sold one, we'd get another one. And we only had a 10-mile radius that we could sell our snowmobiles in. And we raced Scorpions for a while, and the Polaris dealership uptown was just at a bait shop, and they didn't want to do any maintenance at all. So we got the Polaris dealership in '67. And we were more located closer to Scorpion, so we were using a lot of their factory hand-down Scorpion sleds that they raced before, and we would modify them and make them work for the next year. And we were doing good, and grass drags were really hot back in the fall of 70, 69, 70, and so we were grass racing Scorpions with a rubber track, and it was beating a lot of sleds. Well, the local Polaris distributor that we were buying sleds from noticed us, and he says, hey, you want to be on our team? So in 1971, we got new Polaris modified sleds. My brother had one, and I had one. And we wound up going to West Yellowstone, Montana, and then going clear to Boonville, New York. And I was lucky there that I won my class out in Boonville, New York, and we had 40,000 people watching. The snowbanks were so high, it was unreal. And even Miss New York handed out the trophies. But she was in a Arctic Cat purple suit, but she still looked beautiful. Was raced with Polaris for 71, 72, 73, 74, and 75. I was a current chap for our local racing association. I had a very good years. Never got into any real serious accidents. The sad thing is, I remember losing a lot of good friends sometimes. There were some bad crashes, and we got some bad accidents, and that's the thing. And there was some good people that I really remember in my heart. And then 76, Scorpion wanted to put some ice oval racetracks machines on to advertise their brand. And I was elected to come up there and work for 6 months, and we developed a ice racing machine. Scorpion, I do have the machine. I was lucky that they did sell it to me without a hood or without a motor, but I had the chassis itself. After 76, I kind of retired and kept too busy at work, and kind of said, well, I'll do what we have to do and keep our dealership going. We kept our dealership going till around 1982. Then we gave it up because we got too busy, but I still rode snowmobiles a lot, and I still have a lot of snowmobiles and do a lot of trail riding. I was averaging usually around 3,000 to 4,000 miles a year, and I still do a lot of riding, especially for the magazine and stuff like that. So it's been a fabulous life for me. I'm not trying to brag or nothing like that, and I just want to pass the history on of how the snowmobile was created and how the engines and the sleds itself have developed into super sleds that they are now. Nice and quiet, easy riding, easy to hop on and go. Anybody can try them out and really enjoy it. The X2 and the X3, the X2 was a speed run sled that was run by Mike Baker, and he raced it for Polaris out West Yellowstone, and him and Dorothy Mercer, he got the record at 109 miles an hour, and Dorothy got 107 miles an hour, and that's at altitude. So, and it was using two 800 motors. They came back and decided to build another one, and this was called the X3, and it was supposed to be more Aerostream lay down. He was laying on his belly on it, and this was using the same concept, 800 two 800 triple motors, one rotation one way and one rotated the other way, go through the drivetrain, the clutches, and then the chain cases, and then one straight front drive axle. On most of the components on the sled were snowmobile. It was a snowmobile track, snowmobile slide rail, clutches, and everything else. What they did use is alcohol to cool the motor, and you can make about 25 to 30% more horsepower by using alcohol in those motors back then. What happened then is they made the run in 71 out there, and it was too much snow. It snowed too much, and it was so low, the whole sled is only 33 inches high. But when they went out to do their test run, the snow would come up over the front of the pipes and the hood. And so they only ran around 96, 98 miles an hour. So they didn't do very well because of the snow conditions. They came back here and they got it up to 126 miles an hour. All in all, the X2 and the X3 were sitting out in the, in the yard, surplus kind of, and this one guy named Gene, he came along and he was working, him and another Alan had Roscoe Engineering, Roscoe Surplus. and they bought all the surplus parts for Polaris, from Polaris. I knew Gene has the X2, and I helped rebuild that a little bit. It's an experience center in Roseau, Minnesota, so if you ever get up there, stop and see that. They have a beautiful display of all their history. But anyway, this X3, and I knew Gene had it, and I started talking to him, and it took me about 4.5, 5 years to finally convince him that I wasn't going to try to sell it right away or anything like that. That I was kind of a historian, and that I wanted to rebuild it like it was and tell the story. Lo and behold, he finally got together and he finally says, "Okay, Les," he says, "here, give me a piece of paper and a pen." And he took a piece of paper and pen, and he says, "You write what you're going to pay for it, and I'll write what I'm going to sell it for." And we were within $500, so I bought it. And then I took my wife and we went up, and he says, "Well, it's out here in a Quonset hut, way out in the field." And I thought, "Oh, okay." So we went out, we come up there and backed up to it, opened the door up, and I pulled it out, and my wife was looking, "What do you want that thing for?" And I was all smiles. I just was smiles from ear to ear. And we threw what were their components. It was mostly the frame and the hood and stuff like that, and that goes over it. It didn't have I think I had about 2-3 pipes was with it. The rest I had to build. And the motors, I had to find all them and build them, and all the components. The majority of the stuff I built from pictures and from real true components that they had. One thing it does have is a parachute. And the parachute is, well, why? Is it going so fast? No, because back then the tracks were so poor that if you went so fast, it'd shoot out the back. Well, if it shot out the back, you'd be right on the slide rail. You had no brakes. So that was the parachute in case you went too fast and the track blew out and you could slow you down. So I got it all redone, and I built a carrier to pull it onto my trailer so I can take it in shows. And it's really neat. People come out and they lay on it, and then we put the cover on over them. You lay on your belly and you look through the carburetors to see where you're going. And people say, "Wow, how would somebody do that?" Well, when you're racing and the clutches are right by your right hand and a blow, you don't think about that because you have confidence in yourself and your maintenance and everything else, and you want to go fast. And it was an adrenaline rush to go fast. There's nothing better than trying something and seeing how fast it'll go and what else you have to do to make it go faster. So I wound up getting this X3, and it's a lot of people come by, especially the kids. They love to lay on it and just dream of, wow, what would that be like to ride it and race it and everything else. And so I'm honored to anybody who wants to come by and ask questions about it and whatever, and the history is there. Thanks again to the Polaris people. Those are the ones that deserve all the credit for making something like this and trusting me with it. The funniest thing I've seen on a snowmobile, I don't know, that's hard to say, because every time you go snowmobiling, you smile about things and see things. You met a lot of characters. One thing about back in the old days was loyaltism to the snowmobile. I met this one guy from Forest Lake, and he was a motorski guy, and he just loved his motorski. And everybody, had their own color, their own brand, I guess what you want to say it. And he says, Les, he says, the best time I ever had, he says, I pulled up to the bar and I was pulling 2 dead Polarises. And he laughed. I said, did your sled ever break down? Oh, no, he says, but no way. I says, I would have buried it out there before somebody would have pulled me home. So there was so much pride in each snowmobile, and our clothing and our patches. You see all the patches we wore back then and stuff like that. And it was a brand loyalty. And it still is in a lot of ways, but not as much as it used to be. It was crazy back then. But everybody had snowmobiles, and everybody used them. And we're just trying to get, now this year we had a great snowfall, and you can't believe all the older sleds that are coming out. And even the youth, they don't have to buy new sleds. They can find some older used sleds and still enjoy and have a good time. Just have somebody learn mechanicalism and do the little this and that, and it's great.
What year is this?
That's a 73.
It's a 73 Scorpion Stinger. No big deal.
Yes, it is. It's a super fun sled.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal because you're having fun.
American Snowmobiler, I'm having a blast. Whoop.
'70 Scorpion with a 340 Sachs motor in it. About 18 horse, rubber track, boogie wheels. The motor sits in the center. Just having a good time.
Here he comes around again. He makes around through the snow, and he's all smiling.
Well, how was it?
That's awesome. That's incredible. Thanks, Steve Manny. Well, thank your father for the beautiful gear I got. That's it. American Snowmobile signing off. Thank you very much. Scorpion Stinger.